Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome to another video. I'm Brad Taylor and today we're going to take a closer look and dive into my thoughts about the new 2021 Xray Xb2. So here it is, the car that I've been running for the last month and a half now, and we're going to dive into some of the updates here soon and see what they did differently for the 2021 car over the 2020 car, that is. This is also the Xray Xb4 car that I'm gonna also make another review about. Lots of changes. Xray made a lot of changes onto this car for the 2021 year. That car is awesome. Lots of changes, and we'll dive into that here soon. But today, we're gonna be focused on this car. I'm gonna show you some of the things that I changed on it, some of the things that I recommend, some of its strong points, and also some of its weak points. I am sponsored by Xray. Nice. But I'm gonna be as honest as I possibly can with it, and I'm gonna give you the whole splurge on everything with this car, the weak points and strong points. So let's get into it. Starting with the more obvious change Xray made to the new Xb2 is the body for both dirt and carpet variants. Here's what they had to say about the new bodies, okay? All new Gamma 2C body and tech wing in the Xb2C21 for improved rotation in corners and better stability at high speeds. Now for the dirt car, all new Gamma 2D body and rank wing in the Xb2D21 for maximum grip and rear stability. So I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this. As for functionality, you can definitely tell that the new body was designed for maximum grip. And I've tried the carpet body, and I actually prefer that body over the body that comes with the dirt car at my particular track. It does just allow the car to carry a lot more cornering speed, and you do notice a difference. It is pretty significant actually. Then this body, I would say that Xray really hit their mark. They really achieved their goals with their bodies because like they said right on their website that their goal was to make this body generate as much traction as they possibly can and be stable. And I think they achieved that, honestly. Am I gonna prefer to run this body at my local track? Probably not, because my track already generates a ton of traction. It's really high bite surface. It's very tight, lots of 180s, lots of hairpins. And so I need that carpet body. I don't have yet, but I've ran it before and I could tell the difference, so I'm gonna definitely go pick one up. But you can definitely tell the difference in cornering speed with the carpet body. That's what I'm gonna be running at my local track. But if your track is more wide open, a lot more fast paced, more sweeping corners, maybe grip isn't the greatest, then I see no problem with the dirt car body that comes with the kit. I mean, it is a really awesome body. I mean, just take a look at the just sloping lines of it. It is a very beautiful body. I think it looks better than the previous year's body, and just look how it actually slopes up towards the rear of the shock tower. That really does help with downforce towards the rear end and generates a lot more traction on those rear tires. That's about it with the new 2021 bodies. Now getting into the car itself, we're gonna start from the front and work our way back. The next thing that they changed is actually the front and rear shock towers. Let's dive into what they have to say on what they did. Alright, so here's what it says on their website. New front and rear shock towers with denser upper shock mounting positions for ultra fine setup adjustments. So what this means is they actually added, I think it is 2 extra mounting positions on their shock towers. Let's face it, these cars are really sensitive to every little minute adjustment that you make to them. So the more fine, smaller adjustments you can make, it just allows your tuning process to be that much more precise. I really do like that they incorporated that into the new 2021 Xray Xb2. Now the next thing they did is they made the front shock shafts and shock bodies longer to maintain proper down travel with the new shock tower. They did change the front shock tower in the previous car. They made it shorter. So what they did for the 2021 car is match the shock length with that shock tower change. And with that lower shock tower in the front and with the shock shafts and shock bodies to go along with it is it's supposed to make the car a little more stable overall. Now next, and probably the biggest change in my opinion they made for the 2021 car is the steering geometry. Now I quote from Xray again. Improved steering system geometry makes the car more predictable, easier to drive, and faster in high-speed corners. New steering parts include new steering arms, new Ackerman plate, new servo link, and a new offset servo horn. So, it's apparent that they really wanted to make the car easier to drive than the previous car. The previous car had a tendency to be a little twitchy, and what I think is cool about the steering system that they got going on here now is you can flip the steering rack forward or backward for more or less aggressive steering feel. For example, if your track is anything like mine, small, lots of tight turns or chicanes, and you need your car to carry more cornering speed, then you can flip the steering rack forward to where the ball studs are facing towards the front of the car. This will give you more steering and may make it more aggressive, which may be what you want for a track like this. On the flip side, say your track has a lot of sweeping corners and is big, open, or even loose, and your rear end is whipping around, then you may not want such aggressive steering. So in this situation, you can flip the rack to where the ball studs are facing back towards the rear of the car, which will give you less aggressive steering and really smooth it out and make it easier to drive. I have yet seen a car with this feature. It's actually really cool. I tend to mess around with it quite a bit depending on where I'm at. If I'm at CRC, I'll have it towards the back of the car. If I'm at Impact, I'll have it facing towards the front of the car. So it's really cool that they add this tuning feature to really help you tune the car to your particular track conditions. Moving on, another smaller update that they made was to the front camber link mount. There are now 4 holes to choose from over the 3 offered on the last year's car. So again, they're just really trying to give you more tuning adjustability, which is I think pretty cool. As you can see, they didn't really make a whole lot of new changes to the 2021 car over the previous one. But then again, the 2020 XB2 in itself featured a lot of new updates over its predecessor. So for this car, it really looks like their goal for this car was to really just refine a few things and add more adjustability, which I personally think they achieved. But enough with the updates, let's get into how the build went. Now sadly, I don't have a new kit for you guys to go ahead and unbox it and show you everything that comes with inside the box. Really give you the experience of opening a new kit. I'm just gonna try to explain to you my experience with the build and just go from there. I've heard about the fit and finish of Xray cars before I ever owned my 2-wheel or 4-wheel drive cars. Even their manuals have a reputation of being some of the best as well. I'll tell you what, it still surprised me when I first opened the box, and the first thing I pulled out was one of the side rails. You can just tell by holding it, just the plastics, that they're super rigid and of high quality. Just by holding it in your hands, that was pretty remarkable. I'd have to say that the quality of their plastics is second to none in my opinion. They probably have the best plastics in the business. As far as building the car, just the fit and finish of things like the arms and hinge pin, the pockets that the bearings go into, it's all very precise. At least with my build, I had no issues with things like binding the arms and the hinge pins. Actually demonstrate it. I'll grab a brand new arm and a hinge pin. But as you can see, the hinge pin just slides right through the arm with no bind. And then once you put it all together and you go to check it, there's no slop. So Xray did a really good job with just their molds and the precision of their molds. And it doesn't stop there. The bearings are some of the best I've seen in a kit, really. Though I do recommend taking them apart and cleaning them out, factory oil and grease, and replacing it with thin bearing oil. Other than that, I mean, as you can see, I'll give this a flick. It is super free. I mean, that is just their stock bearings. Those aren't ceramic or anything like that. That's just the kit bearings. And once I put a wheel on there, I'll actually go ahead and demonstrate this. But as you can see, you give it a flick and it's literally as free, just about anyways, as an aftermarket ceramic bearing kit. Really, I mean, you go ahead and check all of them like that and they're all the same. Once you clean them out, get that thicker bearing oil or grease or whatever Xray has within them, clean it out, put some thin bearing oil in there, and they're really free, almost ceramic like. Now don't get me wrong, everything does have its flaws.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
But with this car, I could really only find two. Let's dive into them. Number one being the shock O-rings need to be updated to the X-ring style O-rings. The ones that come in the box, they work fine, but they could be smoother. The X-rings would really solve that. They'd be a lot smoother actually. Number two being that the parts in the kit come on parts trees. Granted, they do come off pretty easily. I rarely had to use the flush cutters in my experience, but occasionally you do have to take out your flush cutters. So that's something I think they need to change in the future kits. But honestly, that's it. Everything else was a breeze to build. I was really shocked on how easy this kit was to build. The manual is one of the best I've ever seen in the industry as well, honestly. I've built Associated cars, TLR cars, Serpent cars, pretty much all of them. I've helped my dad build Techno cars. Xray takes the win in manuals. Just when it comes down into the little details, Xray does a really good job in explaining them. And everything's colored. I mean, as you can see, there's no other manuals that look like this. They really put a lot of effort into their manuals, and it shows. So I really appreciate that. All right, enough of all that boring stuff like updates and the build and stuff like that. Let's get into how the car is like to drive. I'm gonna cut this into 4 sections: cornering, grip, jumping, and adjustment. What I mean by adjustment is just how does the car handle adjustments? When you change something, does it make a difference or does it take multiple changes until you start feeling and notice difference out onto the track? Now I am gonna talk about how the car handles out of the box, not how I have it set up now, because obviously out of the box is how you're gonna experience it first. And I always recommend starting from the kit setup anyways. So before you go ahead and change anything out of the kit setup, don't start with the pro setup, don't start with one of my setup sheets, don't start with anybody else's setup sheets. Start from what the kit tells you to do and then make little changes from there to fit your particular driving style and your needs for your particular track. So first up is cornering speed, and I think it corners very well out of the box. It does push just a tad bit, but I think that was their initiative out of the box anyways. Really just make it easier to drive. It does come with a layback transmission, so if you want it to have a little more cornering speed, then the first thing I do is change to the laydown trans that comes in the carpet car. That's what I did anyways, about my second time out onto the track. I changed to that lower center of gravity transmission. And that did in fact help with cornering speed. It just allowed the car to stay a little bit more flatter in the corners, didn't have as much weight towards the rear end of the car to make it a little more tipsy. It freed up the rear end a little bit, which gave it a little bit more cornering speed. Next up is how does the car take changes? And what I mean by that is when you change, like let's say a camber link location, will you actually notice that out onto the track? There have been some cars that I have owned before where I'll go to change like things like shock locations or camber link locations or even shock fluids, and you barely notice a difference with the way the car reacts out onto the track. and it kind of leads you to be a little confused on what to do next. So I threw this in here because I feel like it's a pretty big topic, and let's dive into it. If you've seen my last video, I'll go ahead and put a link somewhere up top here on where you can go watch it. But you'll see by just how adjusting the spring collars, which affects the ride height, notice just on how much of a change that actually affected the car out onto the track. It made a pretty big difference. That's not the only thing. Same thing with things like shock fluids or camber links, or lowering the camber link by adding or taking away spacers. You can really notice a difference with pretty much all the changes that you do with this car. And that's a pretty big advantage, because then when you do make that change, you can really tell right from the beginning whether or not it was a good or bad adjustment. Next up is grip. This car generates a lot of grip out of the box. It was actually too much for my particular track. It was causing it to push a little bit. What I thought was amazing about the car is it generates grip but still stays pretty darn flat in the corners. It doesn't really generate a whole lot of body roll, so I didn't really have any issues with the traction rolling, so that was a surprise. But if your track is high bite, then you're probably gonna want to dial some traction out of it. I mean, you gotta remember what the test track is. The Hoodie Arena is super low bite. Just look at the 2019 Worlds. It was a really weird surface, and this is what they're testing on. So if your track happens to be low bite, this may be what you're looking for. The next thing we're gonna talk about is jumping, and I'm also gonna throw in bumps. Now overall, I think it jumps quite well. It lands plush, which helps with getting on the throttle faster. Xray shock pistons are super thin, probably the thinnest I've ever seen on a car before. The benefit to this is a car that feels very in the track and controllable. The car doesn't skate around on the track, it just stays planted and is in the track. Some cars may feel a little edgy with these type of pistons, needing thicker shock oil to compensate, but somehow Xray found a way to keep the car stable in high grip conditions along with the benefits of thin pistons. Because of this, the thin pistons also excel in bumpier conditions as well. So overall, as you can see in the clip, the car does jump and handle bumps better because of these thinner pistons. That's really all I have to say about the new 2021 Xray Xb2. I mean, as you can see, it's a really good car, and with the month and a half that I've had with it, I've enjoyed it. It's a really good car, it's really fun to drive, it's been pretty durable, and it really excels out onto the track, which is really what we're all looking for. Stay tuned, because we're gonna dive into this four-wheel drive, and Xray, like I said earlier, Xray made a lot of changes to the 2021 variant, and I'm super excited to share with you guys with what they did, because this car, I'm telling you what, this car is awesome. That's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit bell notifications so you don't miss out on any other content. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.